Hey folks, David Stewart here. Time for some more daily trending. Today is the 28th of May, 2020, and I think we knew what was going to be trending today. I didn't want to say too much about it on the live stream last night because I was still gathering details. Of course, what I really want to say here is that the details actually don't matter that much. If you feel like this is a familiar drama, that's because it is, and it has to do with the news cycle and the way that the media will routinely manipulate people and their feelings to make them draw desired conclusions and act in a desired way. So number one trending here is Target because a bunch of black rioters burned down Target last night, I guess, or, looted it to the point where it was completely empty and destroyed it. I think they burned down a AutoZone and a Wendy's. Well, you got to burn down the Wendy's. So if this feels familiar to you, it's because it is. And this all goes back to what I call the fake news formula in 5 steps. So the first one is always you publish a story with a shocking headline. In this case, it was a black man being killed by police. And the second one is you muddle the available information. This has to do with the way that articles are executed. You can check this out. A lot of times you omit facts, you change the order of events so people are confused when watching it. You may insert opinions into the middle of what would otherwise be a straightforward journalistic piece. And the whole point is to get people to do number 3, which is to draw the conclusion you want them to draw rather than to interpret the facts in a subtle and realistic manner. And after all the crazy stuff goes down, which that's what these riots were, is that's what the media wants. They want a big response out of people. They want more people to pay attention to them. And they also want more disharmony, disunion. They want more chaos in general. After all that is down, then you publish a correction. Then you have the facts come out. So then we know more about whoever the victim was. And it always comes out that there's more to it. The guy who got killed, maybe he didn't deserve to get killed, but obviously he wasn't just minding his own business. There's always more to the story than what we find out later. Like I said, the details don't matter because the details are forgotten. We get to number 5. The facts are forgotten and the emotional response is what remains. So when this happens again, people remember it happening the last time, but they don't remember any of the details. Like they don't remember any of the details of the Michael Brown thing. They just remember how they felt. And that's the entire point of this. Now, there's another thing that I want to cover, which is that in general, we are tribal people. And that creates a tendency in a nation or a country of 300 million people to interpret extreme events as normal or typical events or relevant events for us in our own communities when they aren't. This is because extreme events are rare and almost never happen. But if you have a big enough sample pool, then they become somewhat regular in the sense that you see them fairly often. And same thing with school shootings. These are extreme events. They're very rare, but the tendency is because we're exposed to them, we still think like tribal people. We still think like people who live in groups of like 50 to 100, and therefore those events seem highly relevant to us when in reality they're very extreme events and they're not typical at all. So in this case, the police killing somebody is a very extreme event in the way that it's presented. But it doesn't seem extreme because out of that pool of 300 million people, you see it, every year something happens like this and it provokes a bunch of civil unrest. And that's what happens. Like you always hear the same thing. It's the standard normie take on Facebook, which is the next thing I'll talk about. But, it's that we got some kind of problem with police not liking black people and, brutalizing them and killing them. And we have this plague of it when in reality, those are extreme events, just like lightning striking someone. There's people who get struck by lightning all over the country. And if you look at, if you add it all up, it'd be, my gosh, there's hundreds of people being struck by lightning every year. It's like, yeah, but that's a really extreme and rare event and you're probably never going to get struck by lightning. But because we don't think in terms of those large numbers, the magic of large numbers makes people get confused with it. So that's the big things. People start to interpret extreme events as normative. And the last thing I'll talk about is the normie Facebook posts, which are always so cringe and frankly kind of disgusting at this point, which is that we have people that go on, and I got a lot of normie friends on Facebook. It's where my normie friends live as far as the internet goes. They post the same platitudes almost word for word, even though nobody told them to say it. They just kind of respond to the programming from the media about how we have some sort of problem with police and black people and this kind of stuff happening, and it's so bad and we should do something about it. Now, of course, I always cringe at this because it's completely programmed, but also it doesn't do anything, right? Like they change their profile picture and they say, we need to bring awareness to this, and nothing happens because they don't do anything. They really think that posting something on Facebook has some sort of impact on anything when it actually doesn't. Now, the riots, those do have impact. So the people that are going out and burning down buildings are actually having an impact. People are actually being affected by that. More violence has happened as a result, or as a response to this event than than the original violent act, of course. But what we have to keep in mind with all of this is that with these kinds of extreme events, the people who are reacting in this awful way, they actually are effective compared to like the cringy Facebook norm post. And I guess the last little bit is this is always the response. There's a riot with looting where the black neighborhood ends up completely bombed out, and they wonder how are we supposed to get groceries when they burned the grocery store down. And you also have to look at it like this too. It's like a large company like Target, they're involved in a complex business that involves risk. Like you have risk of people stealing things from the store. If having your store completely destroyed is a risk of setting up shop in the inner city, you are going to avoid doing it. It's why you end up with what people call like food deserts, where there's no supermarkets in the inner city. It's because there's too much risk involved in having a store open there. So a lot of the companies and a lot of the entrepreneurs just avoid it and don't even bother going there. So this is something that will be bad for the people who did it. They will suffer long-term repercussions in their local community because of this response. And of course, this is the reverse. So you're taking extreme events and generalizing them, making them normative. This is kind of doing this in reverse. It's like, well, we're going to have a massive retaliatory response towards the normative rather than the specific people who might be responsible for this death. So you, instead of trying to attack or have a vigilante action against the police, you bust up the Target and steal everything out of it. So you just are attacking the normative value, the place that employs people and sells your food, rather than the people who did anything to you. Like that's going to affect the police that did this bad thing. And this is the thing: is like the narrative is, and I said this on stream last night. The narrative is always police as a category don't like black people as a category. Therefore, police as a category are bad. You're always talking about categories of people. You're always giving people a label by their group identity. In this case, it's black and cop. And very few people see the obvious inherent contradiction in that if the police are wrong to dislike black people, then obviously you should probably be wrong to dislike cops as a category. And again, it's just like, well, it'd be like not liking black people because a black person somewhere, mugged someone or you got mugged by a black person, therefore all black people are muggers. That's obvious, obviously confusing individuals and groups, but that's exactly what they do with this. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Having a little bit of fun with the daily trending stuff. This one's a little more complex to talk about, a little more fun to dig into, I think, from an intellectual perspective and being able to see what's going on. Pay attention to that fake news formula, because once all the details come out, just know that they're going to be forgotten by the next time this event happens. These extreme events, when you have a big pool, will happen again, and then they're going to try to provoke the same exact response and make people feel the exact same way, because they view the categories police as just, I guess, a political enemy, is what the media views them as. So you can find more at dvspress.com, more on my books and other articles and general kind of stuff. And I'll see you guys next time.